General Hospital spoilers hint that 3 narrative twists are on the way. So let's chat about what to expect on the ABC soap. GH co-head writers Chris Van Etten and Elizabeth Korta chatted with SOD about what's ahead for Jason Morgan, Britt Westbourne and more. So here's what they said. 1. Huge Faison survival indication for openers. Van Etten and Korta dropped a significant hint that Caesar Faison could be alive and part of Britt's return storyline, which is consistent with hints fans have seen on screen as well. Korta and Van Etten acknowledged that bringing characters back from the dead might be difficult, but they noted that certain soapy elements can help things along. It helps that Britt is the child of 2 larger-than-life parents. Faison and Albrecht, Kathleen Gotti reside in that soap opera universe where anything is conceivable, the co-head writers joked. 2. Brooke Lynn's error has far-reaching implications. Elizabeth Korta and Chris Van Etten also talked about their plans for Britt's comeback, which included Rocco Falconeri discovering how he came into the world. Brooke Lynn Quartermain's blunder provided Rocco with updates on the stolen embryo situation, giving him a cause to bond with Liesel. Brooke Lynn's revelations about Britt and how she gave birth to Ben aka Rocco will have far-reaching ramifications. Lulu Spencer is already furious at Brooke Lynn, and she's only going to get angrier as time goes on. Brooke Lynn has started a chain of events that will spiral out of her and Lulu's control and be felt across the canvas, claim Van Etten and Korta. 3. Jason endangers someone else in his pursuit for Britt. Additionally, Elizabeth Korta and Chris Van Etten warned that Jason's efforts to find Britt may result in some serious drama. Although Jason pondered leaving Britt alone and accepted her decision to fake her death, his change of heart would result in pandemonium. What Jason doesn't know is that confronting Britt may put other people in danger, one person in particular who is very close to him, according to Van Etten and Korta. Of course, it makes likely that person would be Jocelyn Jacks, Carly Spencer's daughter, and someone Jason cares deeply about. Jocelyn is preparing for a mission at the same resort where Britt is vacationing, so there will be double the turmoil at the 5 Poppies. According to General Hospital spoilers, these and other surprises are on the way, so stay tuned for all of the exciting news and jaw-dropping reunions. Jason had just fallen into a rhythm since returning to Port Charles, but his reappearance sent shockwaves across the community. Each reunion brought happiness, questions, and secrets that refused to be buried. While individuals greeted him with varied degrees of warmth or distrust, the most difficult aspect was not how others perceived Jason, but how Jason saw himself. Time had passed, things had changed, and as he looked at the individuals he had previously protected, loved, or battled for, he realized that no one was the same, even himself. Britt's world had already spiraled out of control before Jason returned. Her Huntington's disease struggle loomed like a silent shadow, but the emotional toll of loss and solitude was far greater than the physical. She had worked so hard to preserve a sense of control and to live courageously despite her situation. She avoided those who would sympathize with her or try to help her. However, Jason's unexpected and perplexing return reignited a glimmer of hope she believed she had lost. When they met paths again, it was neither spectacular nor planned. It was quiet and careful. Jason stood there, an echo of a moment she had not forgotten. And Britt? She was cautious. She didn't spring into his arms or make accusations. She stared at him as if she didn't believe her own eyes. And in that moment, Jason recognized that the most difficult conflicts would not be with opponents, but with the people he had left behind. They needed to believe in him again, and he was unsure whether he could deliver on their expectations. Behind the scenes, the main writers were laying the groundwork for a collision of emotions, revelations, and betrayals. Jason and Britt's tale was not intended to be linear or straightforward. Their friendship had always been unusual, built on unlikely trust and mutual respect. However, that trust had been shattered by circumstances beyond their control, rather than by their own actions. The writers saw this as an opportunity to investigate something unusual: redemption without expectations. Meanwhile, Jason encountered a new level of complexity. His time abroad was more than just a blank slate. It was full of secrets. Government secrets. Dangerous alliances. He was forced to make deals he never wanted to make in order to survive. These truths were now being revealed. People sought explanations. Enemies sought blood. Friends demanded assurances which he couldn't give. And at the core of it all was Sonny Corinthos. Sonny had some queries of his own. Why hadn't Jason spoken out sooner? What had kept him away? And who could he trust now that his closest ally was operating in the background? Sunny was accustomed to controlling every piece on the chessboard, but Jason's unpredictability worried him. Their once unbreakable bond now appeared to be hanging by a thread of memory and necessity. What about Jason? He wasn't sure if he could still follow Sunny like he used to. Something had changed. Michael watched all of this with rising concern. His mother's warnings, his own suspicions, and rumors about Jason's affiliations during his absence made him wary. He respected Jason and had always considered him as a protector. But as Michael attempted to restore his family and take control of his own destiny, he couldn't afford any wild cards. Especially not one with Jason Morgan's face and a mysterious past. For Britt, the question was not whether she still had feelings for Jason. The question was whether she could afford to act on them. Her disease was progressing slowly, but she knew the future was uncertain. She had already reconciled herself to being alone. Opening her heart to someone who had vanished without a trace was terrifying. What worried her the most was the fact that she still cared. Even after everything, Jason could still stare at her in that quiet, protecting manner that made her believe they had unfinished business. The writers had always intended to utilize Jason and Britt as emotional foils, two characters formed by suffering, brought together by fate, and separated by timing. But this time they wanted more than just bittersweet tension. They want a clash, an emotional reckoning. When Jason finally told Britt where he had been, the floodgates opened. She did not slap him. She did not cry. She just asked one question. Was it worthwhile? Jason didn't have an answer. As if it wasn't enough, another shocking revelation was building behind closed doors. A startling paternity revelation involving a legacy character was about to change everything. One of the show's most solid relationships will soon be devastated by the discovery that a beloved child did not belong to the person everyone thought. The creators framed this stunner as a turning point for several characters, including Britt, who might play a critical part in learning the truth, not as a victim, but as the only one brave enough to speak out. Jason, who was still battling to establish his footing, would be lured into this web. His code, his vaunted black and white understanding of right and wrong, would be challenged in novel and unpleasant ways. The truth had consequences. And this time the consequences could force him to betray someone he swore he'd never hurt. For Jason, loyalty meant everything. What if loyalty required silence in the face of a lie? What if Britt wanted him to choose honesty above loyalty? Carly, who was always at the center of the storm, saw the shift before most others did. She knew Jason better than anyone, and she could sense his conflict. She knew Jason would go to great lengths to defend those he cared about, even if it meant giving up his tranquility. But the new Jason appeared less certain, more burdened. And Carly? She had her own secrets to keep. Her developing tension with Nina, her protective instincts for Donna, and her deep-seated dread that the people she loved were slipping through her fingers all came to a head as she attempted to figure out what role she still played in Jason's life. As the weeks passed, the writers delved deeper into these personal stakes. Every conversation felt fraught, and every gesture could be meaningful. A late-night telephone call, an apprehensive gaze, an old image taken from a drawer. Jason and Britt were more than just characters in a novel. They represented the emotional pulse of something larger. A confrontation with time, love, and the places left behind. Sam was not immune to the rippling effects. Though she had seemingly moved on, Jason's return pushed her to reconsider everything she believed she had settled. Was she actually over him? Or had she just buried the pain deep enough to function? Her current relationship provided security, but Jason had always been the storm that made her feel alive. And while she didn't want to upend her world again, the thought persisted. What if Jason was the part of her tale that never actually ended? The writers promised fans not only nostalgia, but also an emotional payoff. These weren't just repeated stories. They were continuations of experiences that felt genuine and authentic. Britt's condition would not be overlooked. Jason's trauma would not be overlooked. And the connections between their stories, Carly, Sunny, Michael, and Sam, would make each decision feel earned and meaningful. One of the most unexpected occurrences occurred when Britt confided in Elizabeth. The two had never been particularly close, but their shared experiences with bereavement, motherhood, and problematic men forged a silent bond. Elizabeth avoided cliches and phony encouragement. She listened. She told Britt the truth. That being strong does not imply going it alone. That love, even when it hurts, is still worth pursuing. And that sometimes the folks we want to push away are the ones who stick around. Despite its simplicity, this moment proved to be pivotal. Britt began to open up again after discovering she wasn't as alone as she had thought. Toward the potential of love. About forgiveness. Of taking a risk even if it resulted in grief. And when she finally told Jason about her illness, not as a pleading for compassion, but as a proclamation of honesty, it demolished the barriers he had built up. Jason did not make great promises. He did not claim everything will be fine. He simply grasped her hand and said, "I'm still here." Britt found this more powerful than any storybook ending. Meanwhile, the paternity storyline became progressively darker. Somebody had interfered with the test findings. The truth, once revealed, would destroy a family, and Jason was the only one who could demonstrate it. However, doing so would entail causing pain to someone he cared about. The writers referred to this as Jason's most daunting decision yet. Save a child from a life founded on falsehoods or protect the person who had lied for love. As these narratives came together, the writers emphasized that their purpose was not merely to shock, but to move. To go more into what makes these characters human. Britt's path was not about tragedy, but about strength. Jason's path was not about heroism, but about truth. What about the upcoming twists? They weren't only about ratings. They were the result of years of decisions, blunders, and experiences. The final surprise in the trio that the writers teased featured a new face. Someone with ties to both Jason and Britt. A character from Jason's past, considered dead or forgotten, comes with a plan to burn everything down. This guy knows true secrets. Their presence is about to turn Port Charles on its head. The writers dubbed this figure the match to the powder keg. As they come, with a smile that does not reach their eyes, everything begins to disintegrate. Jason, Britt, Sunny, Carly, Sam, and Michael will be pushed to make decisions they never expected. Alliances will alter. Love will be challenged. When the dust settles, not everyone will remain standing. Because nothing in Port Charles remains buried forever. A teaser clip for Friday, August 8, 2025, has been posted as part of the General Hospital recap. It depicts Britt Westbourne making a bold move. Alexis Davis asks Jason Morgan for help with Scout Kane. Anna Devane also ambushes Jack Brennan and Carly Spencer. Continue reading and let's discuss what's coming up on the ABC soap drama. Anna Devane's ambush. Let's start with Anna, who corners Brennan and Carly. Carly presents an idea to her boyfriend, and the police commissioner makes a statement. Anna sneers and says, "We have some unfinished business." She doesn't appear to be kidding around. Lulu Spencer's fury is over, and she enters Laura Collins' office. I do not see the mayor in the video, but Dante Falconeri is present. Lulu asks him why she wants to visit them. However, we know from the official written spoilers that Lulu and Dante will be outraged with the things they discover. Jordan Ashford's sizzling reconnection. General Hospital spoilers for Friday, August 8 show Jordan Ashford reconnecting with Curtis Ashford. Curtis sits by the Metro Court pool, appreciative for his former Flames assistance. Curtis states in the trailer clip for the next episode, "It wouldn't have happened at all if it weren't for you." While they don't have anything going on, they have blazing chemistry together. It's only a matter of time until Portia Robinson commits another offense. When that happens, Jordan may be able to take advantage of the situation. Drew Kane's doubt is over, and he speaks with Elizabeth Liz Baldwin. The congressman questions Liz's claim that Willow Tate is better off without him. Read this. General Hospital spoilers. Major character sets up shocking death in WSB Dalmatia mission? Alexis Davis's plea. Alexis contacts Jason and makes a plea. The right-hand man listens with concern as a distressed Alexis inquires, "Isn't this meant to be about Scout's needs?" It may be time for Alexis to seek custody of Scout. However, she should speak with Diane Miller rather than Jason. Unless she wants Jason to get rid of Drew, I cannot see her going that far. Friday, August 8, 2025. Britt can be seen lounging by the pool in tomorrow's show as well. She looks up at an invisible figure. Wearing sunglasses, Britt calmly says, "You can tell him I'm on strike." Which plotline are you most excited to see on Friday, August 8, 2025? Britt's decision did not come easily. For weeks, she had wrestled with her conscience, split between the person she used to be and the woman she wished to become. The past continued to haunt her. Every lie, plot, and time when self-preservation took precedence over integrity. However, both Port Charles and love have the ability to transform people. Jason had been chipping away at the wall she'd created long before she realized what he meant to her. It wasn't only about romance anymore. It was about redemption, about sticking up for something important, about doing the right thing even if it meant exposing herself. She stood in the hospital corridor, staring at the security footage on the iPad she held. What she discovered verified what she'd suspected for weeks. Someone inside the hospital had been manipulating with patient records, particularly those relating to mob-related injuries. It wasn't just shoddy cover-ups. These included intentional data wipes, fake documents, and the destruction of whole case files. Britt had gone through every protocol, access log, and admin record, and what she discovered pointed to only one conceivable conclusion. She tapped the screen, and the face that froze in the middle made her breath catch. It was not an outsider. It was someone she had once trusted, and they had intimate ties to Sunny. Someone who stands to lose everything if this information is made public. Britt had a choice. Conceal it or reveal it. She knew how much it would cost. But perhaps certain truths are worth blowing everything up for. She slid the tablet under her arm and proceeded to her office, where her plan was already in motion. Meanwhile, Alexis Davis sat in her office at the Invader, her hands quivering slightly as she read the email that had just arrived. The messages suggested meaning, not its content, rattled her. Someone out there was getting too near to a narrative she had long forgotten. Something from her time at the DS office, before her license was revoked and her life imploded. Now, all of the shadows she thought she'd left behind were awakening and whispering threats. She pondered shutting it all down and leaving away before things got too serious. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. She was sober, clear-headed, a fighter. Nonetheless, she realized she couldn't do it alone. There was only one man she trusted to tell her the truth, even if he no longer owed her anything, Jason. Alexis despised asking for help, especially from someone with as many responsibilities as Jason Morgan. But if anyone knew the penalty of silence, the value of commitment, and the significance of whispered truths, it was him. So she made the call, her voice firm even as her heart hammered in her chest. Jason arrived to her office under the radar like he normally does. There's no fanfare. There are no questions. It's just presence. Alexis gazed into his eyes and saw the guy who had once rescued her daughter, the man who had maintained innumerable secrets without ever questioning why. She did not waste time exchanging niceties. "They're coming after me," she remarked bluntly. "Something from the past. Something I buried. And I need to know if you'll support me when the situation arises." Jason didn't respond straight away. He never did. But when he nodded once, quietly, Alexis felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It was not a promise of safety, but it was a promise of truth, which was sometimes sufficient. Across town, Anna Devane was already working in the background. Her instincts had been screaming at her for days. Ever when the WSB sent her an encrypted communication with a name she had not heard in years. There was more movement in the shadows and all signals pointed to a new figure rising in Port Charles. Someone with connections to international arms sales, black market intelligence, and old vendettas. Anna had tried going through the usual procedures, but too many red flags had appeared. Individuals were being silenced. Files were being erased. Agents she previously trusted were suddenly unavailable. So Anna devised her own scheme. She followed the movements of a courier who had been seen near Pier 52, someone with ties to a long-defunct faction she assumed had been disbanded. She pursued the trail of evidence herself, sifting through dead ends, intercepted messages, and a developing web of duplicity that led directly back to Port Charles. She didn't know the full extent yet, but she did know that someone was planning something big, and they wanted her preoccupied. Anna refused to be baited. Instead, she planned her own ambush. She took up position on the Metro Court rooftop, pretending as a high-level buyer seeking critical WSB intel. The informant grabbed the bait. He was late, cautious, and nervous, but it showed. She let the discussion flow, offering just enough to keep him chatting. She then sprung the trap. Before he could reach for his weapon, her crew had him. What he said under pressure was worse than she had expected. It wasn't just about guns and secrets, it was about treachery. Someone within the WSB was collaborating with an outside entity. And whoever it was had extensive ties to Port Charles, including people Anna still considered friends. The consequences were astounding. Back at the hospital, Britt paced her office. She realized time was running out. There was no turning back once she revealed what she knew. She picked up her phone and contacted Jason. He responded promptly. "I need to see you," she stated in a tense voice. Jason arrived within 20 minutes. Britt handed him the tablet and observed his demeanor as he scrolled through the footage. His expression remained impassive, but she knew he recognized the significance. He gazed up at her, the gravity of the situation settling in. "This goes deep," he remarked. "I know," Britt said. "But if I don't say anything, people will get hurt." Jason nodded. He honored her decision, but he also understood what it meant. They were entering a maelstrom over which neither of them had complete control. As he left her office, he called Spinelli and requested every traceable digital footprint relating to the hospital's access logs. If someone was covering tracks, Spinelli would find them. Meanwhile, Alexis sat alone, revisiting a file she had buried for years. It was about a confidential informant, someone whose testimony had discreetly convicted a significant participant years before. At the time, Alexis believed she was protecting someone. But now that the threats had surfaced, she wasn't sure. Perhaps someone else has been pulling the strings all along. Perhaps the truth was always murkier than she let herself believe. The door to her office creaked open. Jason entered with a distinct expression in his eyes, focused, aware, and calculating. "Britt's on to something," he added. "And it connects with you. The files that were destroyed in the hospital include information about people you prosecuted. This isn't a coincidence," Alexis realized as a chill ran down her spine. The walls were closing in faster than she expected. "Then we need to move," she said, "before they silence us." Anna spent the following 48 hours cross-checking the informant's confession against WSB logs. Everything pointed to an internal leak. Someone who had been buried within the agency for years, biding their time. She realized she couldn't trust anyone other than herself right now. So she called Robert Scorpio. If there was one individual who could be relied on in times like these, it was him. When he arrived at her apartment, Anna didn't waste time. "I need a name," she explained. "Someone who isn't on the radar. Someone who has been in Port Charles in the last 6 months. Robert looked at her carefully before pulling a folded document from his coat. "You're not going to like this," Anna explained gently. The name on the page chilled her blood. She hadn't seen that name since the night of the warehouse explosion 5 years prior. The man was believed to have died. But now he was back, and he was after all of them. Britt attempted to keep her normal routine at the hospital, but the weight of her secret made each shift more difficult. She received an anonymous text message mid-shift that read, "You don't know who you're dealing with. Back off," was all it said. She did not show it to anyone. She stared at it for a long time before deleting it. Not because she wasn't afraid, but because she knew fear couldn't prevail. Not this time. She called Jason again. This time her voice shook. "They know I've got the footage," she claimed. "They're watching me." Jason was halfway to the hospital when she hung up. He discovered her in the on-call room, pale and scared. She didn't need to say anything more. He saw terror in her eyes and felt it in his gut. Someone strong was attempting to conceal the truth. At that point, Jason made a decision. They refused to run. They would not conceal. They would fight. At the conclusion of the day, Alexis had a press release in her hands. It was audacious, risky, and could have cost him his job. But it described the corruption that began in the DA's office and spread to the hospital and beyond. She was planning to publish it. Every name, every lie, every cover-up. Jason had her back. Britt had the evidence. Anna had a bigger picture. They were no longer independent components. They were linked by the same thread, and it was unwinding quickly. Anna met them all at a safe house just outside town. She told it all out. The rogue agent, old foes resurrecting, and the links between the WSB, the DA's office, and the hospital. This isn't just a local problem, she stated. It is global. And if we don't stop it here, it will spread. Jason listened attentively, but his thoughts were already racing. It wasn't simply about loyalty anymore. It was about legacy, protecting those they cared about and ensuring that the truth was preserved no matter what happened. Britt looked at Anna and then Jason. What shall we do now? Jason looked at the others and whispered words that had more weight than he anticipated. We're going to war.